An office is actually a great place to grow Phalaenopsis type orchids, but it can actually be very difficult to get them to bloom because in order to get Phalaenopsis orchids to spike, you need a 10-degree difference between day and night. And most offices are very well climate controlled, averaging about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I thought I would do a video this weekend about growing orchids in the workplace. So I have a standard office, maybe with more plants than other offices, but I have a standard office. It has fluorescent lights, which are currently off, and it has a window. You can see that I have this horribly ugly view of a roadway outside and some electrical equipment. I have actually a western exposure in here. So it's currently about noon, and you can see that I don't have really any direct light coming in on my orchids right now. So to grow orchids successfully in your workplace, number one, I think probably a window is the best thing. What I've done is I placed my Phalaenopsis, which is the most common type of orchid that you can get like at Lowe's, Home Depot, Trader Joe's, your regular grocery store, and I place them up against the window right here, where it's much colder by the glass. So the glass right here, where my hand is colder, and then it gets warmer progressively as you go into the room, and that is how I achieve the 10-degree difference to get my orchids to spike. So you can see that the orchids closest to the window are spiking right now. You can see that some of them even have flower buds. And so what I do is I keep them next to the windows until they're spiking and they have buds. And then I move them to the middle of the room so that I can enjoy the flowers. Now the only issue using a window like this at work is that you can see that all my spikes grow toward the sun. And so I end up quite often with this effect right here. You can see where my buds are all pointed in one direction, if you can see that. So these buds, see, they're not pointed to the side. I don't get good side presentation like you see right here. Almost everything always is pointed sort of directly like this, which was the direction that this was growing toward the light until I moved it. You can also have orchids directly under the fluorescence, as you can see here, where I have some of my blooming orchids on display for the rest of my office to enjoy. But it's really hard to get them to spike properly. So if you see this spike right here on this white Phalaenopsis, this spike has been here since December. It is now, tomorrow will be April 1st, so it's been here for 3 months, and you can see that it has not budded because there really hasn't been a good enough temperature change. Really needs a good 10-degree difference so to get buds to form properly. So I had flowers on this one, and I had brought it into the middle to enjoy the flowers, but since the flowers are done now, I have now cut the spike, the blooming spike off right there, see? And I'm going to take this back to my window in hopes of getting it to actually form buds. When displaying orchids, it's important to look for drafts. So most offices have vents where heating and cooling come out, like this right here. And you want to keep your flowers out of the draft or else they won't live as long. And I very carefully place my orchids on this shelf so that hopefully the draft, just coming out of this vent up here, does not blow on them. You want to make sure that with Phalaenopsis orchids that you don't give them too much light. This right here, as you can tell by how very, very bright it is an eastern window at my workplace. And you can see that I have the blinds closed and tilted up with it. So they're tilted up. And that's because an eastern window, with the kind of glass that we have at work, which doesn't do any sort of UV blocking, is way too bright and it's way too hot. And these poor orchids would all desiccate and sunburn horribly if they got full eastern light coming out of these windows. So I actually experimented here for a few years with different amounts of lighting in different rooms at my office until I figured out how much light the various orchids could receive in each location. I water my orchids about once a week. I water my orchids with tap water. In fact, I get my water from the sink right here that has the sign that says non-potable water. And so it's, I believe, just unpurified, so you can't drink it, but it works just fine for my orchids. So I just fill a deli container with water and then I take it back to my plants. Water my orchids, I just take some water and then I actually just fill the deli container a little bit. And I just actually can see through right here to see how much water I put in, and that's how I water them. I don't even take them to the sink and drain them. Not all the orchids are doing great. Like this one looks like the top leaf died, and I don't know if this one will survive after this blooming, since I don't see any new leaves coming in from the center there. It could be totally dead, but it does have nice flowers right now. I hope you've heard some useful tips for how to take an orchid that you buy from any grocery store and grow it in your workplace and get it to bloom.